Okay, well, I'd just like to thank you all for being here. It means so much to me because, as some of you know, working on a book is a very isolating process. And the whole process for me for making the book took about 5 years from. Oh, sorry, I just jumped right in, didn't I? Well, I figured everybody knew me, but. Hi, my name is Claire Lordon. I'm an author, illustrator, designer, all that good stuff. And the book I wrote and illustrated is called One in a Million. And it's about when I was a teenager and I was going through a bunch of health issues that ended up with a diagnosis of a brain tumor. And the book is about highs and lows, about trying to be a normal teenager as best I could. And it does have a happy ending because I'm sitting here today. Yay. What was I talking about before I introduced myself? Oh yeah, 5 years. Okay, yeah. So 5 years doesn't count the life the actual writing I did when I was a teenager. So the book is heavily based off of my diaries at the time. And so it was kind of fun going back and rereading events that I completely forgot that had happened. But as soon as I read it, I could just totally visualize it. And um, yeah, it was a little hard at times going to make the book because it was just really painful revisiting those memories. But I say in the book it really wasn't cathartic, but I was talking to my therapist about it. She's like, it really was cathartic, Claire. Come on, we all know this. And I'm like, okay, fine. Maybe I just didn't see it at the time, but and I'm seeing it more now. But yeah, my hope is um, that the book helps people, whether it's someone going through another health crisis or health condition, or someone who hasn't done anything like that at all, and that way they can gain more empathy, especially because when I was a teen, I didn't really look sick from the outside, minus a little bit of a puffy face. That was pretty much all you could really see. It was very slight, and people just thought I had gained weight. And I was told by many doctors, "Oh, she's just being a teenager. She gained weight. Oh, she's just being a teenager. She's depressed. Oh, she's just being a teenager. She's dealing with all these other issues." So it was very validating to finally get a diagnosis. But at the same time, I was kind of straddling this world of in between adolescence and adulthood, because even though I was 17, I um, my disease was an adult disease. And so when I went to see the children's hospital, they didn't know what to do with me. They were like, "We don't treat that here." And so I saw an adult endocrinologist, and he's like, "Oh, it's pretty rare, especially in Utah at that time." And so they sent me to Mayo Clinic in Minnesota, which was I'd never heard about, but I know all about it now. And yeah, I'll let you read the rest of the story, but I don't want to give it all away. But yeah, I really want to thank my family, even though they're not here, just because they were super supportive during that time and also while I was making the book. And gosh, I also want to thank my friends and uh, other big important people in my life that actually let me draw them in the book. It was, something you never really think of when you're going through just your daily life, that someone's going to come to you 15 years later saying, "Hey, I want to write a book. Can I put you in it?" So I'm thankful for all of them because they all said yes. I wish I could have asked more people, but I I was pretty busy, so I did my best. And yeah, I hope you all enjoy the book. I know it's not pretty much the happiest read, so I appreciate you all digging in and hope you maybe take something from it. Yeah, I'll do a little reading. I've never done a reading from a graphic novel before or a graphic memoir, so this is a new thing for probably all of us. So if you have a book, you can go to page 92. And so page 92, first panel is I'm taking out a CD from a computer that says burn complete. Second panel is a CD that says Claire's art on it. And third panel, this is me talking to my art teacher. Mr. Bettine, can I show you something? Sure. Panel for me at the computer. This is some of the art that I've made outside of school. I was hoping you'd reconsider me taking AP art. I'll let you sign up, but if it becomes too challenging for you, you'll have to drop it. Also, I'm having everyone in the AP class make 5 paintings over the summer. Can you handle that? Panel 6. I look very happy. Oh, yes. Thank you so much, Mr. Bettine. This means so much. Thanks again. Next page, March 18th. Although my dad is busy running his doctor's office, he always makes time for me. He loves cooking, and I'm starting to like it too. Panels 1 through 4 are me and my dad making pizza and putting it in the oven. Next page. First panel, my dad's taking out the pizza. We start making another pizza, and he says, "What would you like to do after we eat the pizzas?" Next panel, I say, "Maybe we could see what's on pay-per-view." That sounds like a great suggestion. And then we eat the pizza. Okay, next page, March 20th. I recently joined a different Girl Scout troop that Catherine is a member of. Thank you. Enjoy your cookies. Next panel. We're sitting at a booth in front of a REI. She and I take art together, but we don't know each other very well. So are you going to take AP art next year? She asked. Yes. I showed some of the art I made outside of school to Mr. Bettine, and he said that he'd let me try it. I say, you're in the other section of honors bio, right? What did you think of the last quiz? Catherine says, it was so hard. I say, totally. We laugh together, ha ha ha. And I say, I'm glad you thought so too. The last panel is a little bit zoomed out, and she asks, after this is over, do you want to get Starbucks? And I say, sounds great. Next page, March 21st. I'm so excited but nervous to finally play in a lacrosse game again today. There's a group shot. Next panel, I am in the goalie crease and someone's about to shoot on me. I say, ball left, ball left. Next shot, someone actually is shooting on me. And they say, oh, and the text says, my stamina and endurance are poor because of my illness. So it's good that I've always been the goalie. Next panel, I save the shot and I'm about to throw it. And at least my reflexes are still fast. Next panel, we're all the team celebrating because we won. And the last panel, I'm walking away from the game, talking to a friend. And it says, it's nice to feel like myself again. And my friend says, great job today, Claire. Next page, March 22nd. I'm sitting at the kitchen counter and I'm painting. And what it looks like, it's a chubby girl on the left, um, sitting on some sort of nerve or neuron-y thing with some squiggles above her head. And my mom sits down and she asks, "Is that you?" And I say, "No, it's not me." And she asks, "Are you sure?" And I say, "Yeah, it's just a girl." My mom puts her hand on my neck and she says, "Okay." And then in the last panel, I look very sad. March 23rd. While I'm not a fan of my psychiatrist who can write prescriptions, my psychologist or therapist is better. "Come in, Claire. How are you doing?" And that panel is illustration of the building. Next panel, me inside talking to my therapist. "Not very good." She says, "Can you expand on that? Are you nervous about going to the Mayo Clinic next week?" I say, "Yeah, I'm anxious what will happen." She says, "Just remember that they will be doing tests to help you. Is there anything specific you're afraid of?" I say, they're talking about sampling something from my brain." She says, "That does sound scary, but know that you're going to be in the best hands and your mom will be there. Is there anything else you're concerned about?" I say, "I don't know. I just feel guilty all the time." She asks, "How so?" I say, "Like, I'm taking up all my parents' time and also a problem." She says, "Have your parents said that you're a problem?" "No." Sigh. "But I feel guilty and they have to deal with this. It's just a lot. And my dad has been very busy at his office." She says, "When your mom comes in, we can have a chat about this and see what she thinks. Does that sound okay?" Okay. Next page is me and my mom sitting together on the couch, and my therapist asks, "So, Mom, what do you think about Claire's worries?" Mom says, "Claire, you don't need to feel guilty. Your father and I want to help you get better, and we are happy to spend the time and money to do so. We'd do anything to help you." I sit there and I slightly smile and say, "Okay." But in text, thinking text, I say, "I feel a little better, but I still feel guilty." March 26th, there's a shot of the outside of my high school. There's some text coming from the school. We don't know who it's coming from. It says, "I'm so excited for spring break." "Me too." Two dudes are walking the hallway. They say, "I'm going skiing over break." The other dude says, "Nice, man. I'm going to visit some colleges." My friend Catherine walks up and she says, "Hey, Claire, what are you doing for spring break?" The next page is image of me that's slowly being zoomed in 3 times. And it says, "Catherine and I just became friends. Do I tell her the truth? If I do, what will happen? Will she still want to be friends with me? Will she tell everyone? What do I say?" Next image is me looking a little worried. And it says, "Maybe I can be vague." And so I'm talking to her and I say, "I'm going to Minnesota." She says, "Oh, cool. You're going to see family?" "No." "What part of Minnesota? Meaning Minneapolis?" "Rochester." "Neat. My parents used to work there." Can she guess that I'm going to the Mayo Clinic? Rochester isn't a big city. I have to change the subject. "Did you get into AP art?" Catherine says, "Yes. We're going to rock the art room next year." If there's even going to be a next year for me. Yeah. Hope that went all right. Yeah, I'd like to take any questions if people have any questions in the audience land. If not, that's okay too. Oh, one question over here.
So there's a ton of detail recounting, what happened in your life, and I'm just thinking if I were to try to attempt to chronicle my own like high school days, like I wouldn't even know where to begin. Like the amount of like what you left in and your what you remember of your interactions. Are you sourcing from your a diary, or is this all just like off the dome?
So it's threefold. So it's my own memories, which unfortunately, because they were traumatic, they're still in there. Second bit is my diaries at the time, because writing was pretty much like the only outlet I had consistently. I mean, besides art, but I mean, it's a little easier to chronicle your day in writing than it is in art. And so I would write in my diary sometimes multiple times a day. I'd bring it to school and I'd be writing during the middle of class. So I have quite the detailed diary. And then the third prong is talking to friends and family. So I'd call up my high school friends and be like, hey, did you remember this happening? Or I talk to my mom and be like, I don't remember this part, because one of the symptoms of Cushing's is having poor memory. So again, that's why I relied heavily on um, my diaries. But yeah, also asking friends and family what they remembered from that time as well.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
Piggybacking on that, I was really struck by just how like the demonstrations of anxiety and insomnia, the way you illustrated those, it was very moving. It was very poignant, and it really felt very accurate, I guess, as to what those experiences are. And so I was wondering, was that also sort of, were those things you kind of almost lifted from your diary? Were you drawing them out in that way? Or is this a, adult Claire that has, this amazing illustrative ability, sort of putting them into that kind of context for the graphic novel format?
It's definitely adult Claire. There is a couple images of me like drawing things that I actually did draw, like on page 56. I know there's a couple others in there too, where page
Oh yeah,
30.
yeah.
Um, there's a couple others as well. And so those were stuff like I actually drew. If you go in the very back of the book, there is a photo of a school page
Yeah,
of
yeah.
like my thoughts just going crazy. I'm just doing a couple little doodles and stuff. And so the black and white pages are now Claire, using kind of like the sketchiness language of then Claire
Mm-hmm.
to visually show these symptoms, because I knew it was one thing to say like, oh yeah, and then I had depression. And people would somewhat know what that means, but it's I mean, I don't think I do a pretty good job at explaining it. But I know how to show it because I know how it feels, and unfortunately, I've dealt with these things for quite a good chunk of my life. So
Yeah,
thank
we're
you for the
very
thank you for the
relatable
question.
and understandable and very, I guess, accurate to my own perceptions of some of those things. So
Thank you.
I was,
That's
yeah,
good to hear.
yeah.
Oh, another question.
Yeah, this one's a very much lighter, a very lightweight question, which is
Sure.
like, one of the things I was also struck with is like some of the details, like for instance, like that you would be consistent with wearing the same T-shirt for a couple days, and it's a very easy way to tell. So were those actually like shirts you owned? Like,
Yeah,
are
yeah,
they
yeah,
like,
yeah.
you
So
know?
that is something I actually did. I went back to my photos from that time. I was like, okay, what are some like T-shirt designs that I could like riff off? They're like not exactly one for one, but yeah, that was actually one of the more fun parts. I was like, what kind of T-shirts should I wear back then? And yeah, and so I tried to kind of keep consistent. So like you'll see some T-shirts from the beginning of the book that'll be towards the end of the book, just because I only had so many T-shirts, and there were only so many photos of me wearing certain T-shirts. So, um, oh yeah,
Very
yeah,
nostalgic.
that was like my favorite necklace at the time. I wore it everywhere, very much 2007.
Can you speak a little bit about the color purple?
Yes. So I chose purple because I noticed that there hadn't been that many graphic novels, graphic memoirs in purple. And I also wanted it to be a sad color, but not like a sad color. I wanted, and I also just like the color purple. I mean, it's my third favorite color. So
What are the first two?
orange and then blue. Oh, this and orange would be completely different. So very different vibe. Thank you. Yeah, unfortunately, I had a lot of horrible headaches and migraines later in my life. I'm doing better now, though. So, ooh, another question.
I'm curious about the editorial process because it's your story, and
Yeah.
if there were certain things that were debated to be cut out that you felt attached to, or how that was for you.
Yeah. So again, working with your life is very challenging compared to working something of fiction because fiction, you can go in any which way direction, but when you're working from real life, you have to stick with the real events. And so first off, choosing the right time period, it's like, where do I start the book? Where do I end the book? And so I start the book at the beginning of January 2007. It was right after my my friend had just given me a diary. And so I was like, okay, fresh start, let's go. And it's also the beginning when I started having pretty much like back to back doctor's appointments. And so I thought, let's just start it there. Let's just dive right into the action and see how that goes. And like I said, I wrote so much in my diaries, and so much happened in this 8-month period of time, which is the majority of the book, plus a little bit of senior year. So there's a lot that happened that I ended up having to cut that just didn't serve the story. I didn't move it forward. And if the book had been twice as long, I probably would have been able to keep it in. But fortunately, it's not. But, I think cutting those out made the story stronger. At the same time, there were a couple times where I had to remind my editor. I was like, nope, this came first, then this. We can't switch those around because that's not what really happened. I'm sorry. That's the way it is. Yeah, so that was the process of, yeah, figuring out the timing and then uh, figuring out what to cut. Question in the back.
Yeah. Is the structure of the book or of the story very different at the end than what you had envisioned, what you had envisioned in the beginning? Like, how much did it change over the years? And also, how long did it take?
You mean like the whole story? Like,
Like the story, or like how you chose to, like, you have these kind of like interstitial parts where you like illustrate your anxiety or things like that. Like, did you have that all in your head at the beginning, or did it really shift over time? Or
oh gosh. So when I was pitching this to editors, I actually illustrated probably about 20 pages that ended up being completely cut from the book. So those first pages started, so pretty much all my woes started when I was 12 and I broke my ankle and I had to have surgery on it, and things kind of just cascaded from there. So that's where I started the book initially. But we realized, okay, no, that's, it's really not about breaking my ankle. It's about, dealing with like my brain tumor and such. And so we pushed it back there. What was the other part to your question?
right.
Oh, the anxiety and stuff.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
suppose like how different is the like how much did the book change over time, and also how long did it take you from like conception to finishing it?
Yeah, so I want to touch on the anxiety parts because I pitched to the editors and I included pretty much like a 2 pages single space outline of the whole story, which I knew. And not that many editors were interested at the time, and we were still waiting to hear back from a couple. And around that time, I was like, okay, I need to start making a couple more visuals just to help tell the story. And that's actually when I started sketching out the depression sequence. And so it was there from pretty early on, just because I wanted to give people an idea of what it actually feels like to have depression, because I know what it feels like, and it's not fun, and it's dark and deep, and I just knew I could show it pretty viscerally. And so the book, so I had the idea for the book, gosh, maybe 2015. I was at a highlights retreat for graphic novels, and at the time, okay, so it did change quite a bit from my initial thoughts. So at the time, my drawing of people was absolutely horrible. And so initially, the way that I was working with my mentors at the retreat was like, okay, Claire, like, this is a good idea. It's a good story. What if you draw them as animal characters, like in El Defo? And so I started doing that, and then I think I showed it to my agent. He's like, "This looks so like middle school. I'm sorry." And I was like, "You're right." I'm a little, and then I took a lot of practice to get me to like, okay, like if I am gonna draw these people as people, what are they gonna look like? And so I can draw people pretty well now after 272 pages. So that's one way to learn how to draw people.
Write a whole graphic novel.
Yeah. Alex, did you have a question? That was the question. Okay. Anybody else? If not, that's okay too. Okay, one more.
I mean, it's along the same line.
Sure.
But like, did you know from the beginning that? I mean, it's I guess duochromatic, like you're using two different colors. Was that part of the original plan, or was it something that you decided partway through?
That was something the publisher decided, which I was very thankful for, because going back to Zoe's question, when I decided I was going to make this book to when I actually finished the last page took about 5 years, almost exactly. And as far as the color goes, that was something my publisher said. They were saying, let's do this in one tone, which again, very thankful for, because going full out in color just takes so much longer. So, and I also thought it kind of would give it a more like mature look, sort of a thing. So, yeah, purple. Oh, and they let me decide the color too. So, and they were happy with it. So, yeah, we went back and forth quite a bit trying to pick out the exact Pantone color to use, and they sent me like a sample from like the printing factory, be like, okay, is this the sample or is this the color you want? I'm like, this is the one I want. So, yeah, that was actually a fun part of the process. Okay, question in back.
Yeah, sure. With the the process where you would send your publisher the thumbnails and so on, how many iterations do you think you went through from that initial like visuals to the final?
Ooh. Thankfully, when I was working on the thumbnails, the text was already pretty solid by then. But at that point, we did take out there were some pages in the book that were basically my diaries but obviously rewritten because my handwriting, and there's a bunch of stuff that was totally not relevant. So I had a couple of pages that were supposed to be kind of like diary-esque pages in there. And then my editor decided, let's scrap those. We can use those pages for something else. That and the epilogue used to be all drawn out, and that took at least 8 pages, maybe 10. And then again, my editor was like, let's make that just text in the back. We can use those pages to help flesh out these other sections. So those were probably the most major things I can think of off the top of my head from thumbnails to final book. But as I was talking earlier, it's a lot of work going from writing, thumbnails, sketching, inking, final color for 272 pages. It's a lot of work, but slow progress every day. I'd set little goals for myself, like maybe 3 to 5 pages a day, and I'd see my whiteboard slowly fill up with check marks, and before I knew it, I was done. Thank you.